Welcome back to a special tournament edition of This Week in Wisconsin Prep Hockey. Today we'll be talking about the state championship semifinal games and the upcoming championship games tomorrow. With me today are Bill Berg Jr. Oh, first of all, I am Bill Berg. With me is Bill Berg Jr., Del Scanlon. We're hoping that MJ Hammett will be able to join us tonight. He was working the Janesville Jets game, and he thought he'd be getting home about this time. And if he does, he will join in with us. Otherwise, we will proceed on without him. But first order of business is the first games we saw on Thursday morning, which was Division II semifinal games. That was Rice Lake and Lakeland, and then St. Mary Springs and Baldwin Woodville. So we'll start out with the Rice Lake versus Lakeland game. Good game, I thought. I shouldn't say this, but I was pleasantly surprised at how aggressive Lakeland was and how closely Lakeland played with what I thought was a superior Rice Lake team. I mean, Lakeland stuck right with them the whole game.
Yeah, Lakeland was on the board first. They were not outshot by more than two in any period. One in the first period, two in the second. They actually outshot Rice Lake in the third period. The big problem for Lakeland is that they didn't get a lot of second shots. Most of their scoring chances were one and done, as the Rice Lake goalie, Ian Krantz, either covered the puck or redirected it into the corner, or the Rice Lake defense was able to clear it out. So they didn't get a lot of second chances, which at the state tournament are how many goals are typically scored, because generally you're facing goaltenders that are going to stop that first shot more often than not. But yeah, that was a great game. They hung with them the whole time. I think Lakeland would, if you told them that shots were going to be, 25 to 24 and they would have 5 power plays, they probably would have felt pretty good about the game, but they went 0 for 5 on the power play. Good penalty killing for Rice Lake.
Yeah, and Lakeland goaltender Max Misaizva, he played well. It was a very close game. Just a couple of breaks went Rice Lake's way. I mean, it was a very even game, back and forth, up and down the ice. I mean, it was very energetic in the building. Both teams brought a good fan base. The atmosphere in the building, I mean, as cavernous as the Alliant Energy Center can be, each team was well represented, and each side made a lot of noise. It was an exciting hockey game, and it was a great way to kick off the tournament. Moving on from that, the second game was St. Mary Springs versus Baldwin Woodville. And again, good crowd in the building. Baldwin Woodville brought a lot of people down. They made a lot of noise. They came up on the short end of the stick. St. Mary Springs, some very talented players on their side. One that was missing that we found out about today. But go ahead and tell us about that one.
Yeah, Talon Blank, sophomore first line forward for Springs, who we saw at the Badgerland Conference tournament absolutely dominate against Nina Hortonville-Menasha, is out with an injury. And they learned of that injury at practice on Wednesday and then in full on Thursday morning. And I was talking to Coach John Welsh, and I said, I didn't see him out on the ice. I'm looking for 29. Then I looked down your bench, through my camera lens so I can zoom in. I'm looking for 29 and I don't see him. And John Welsh is like, yeah, I'm wondering where he is too. Because I think he was missing him there. It was a good game for Springs. I mean, we just watched this team put up 10 on Oregon, I believe, where Dane Dianovich had 5 goals, I think, in that sectional final game. Um,
5 goals and 2 assists.
Yeah, 5 goals and 2 assists, whereas against Baldwin Woodville, 31 shots, 4 goals. Midway, actually more than midway through the second period, this was a 2-1 hockey game. It took Baldwin a while. It took them until 3:10 of the second period to get their first goal, but they got that goal. It's a 2-1 hockey game, and then 2/3 of the way into the second period, Springs got 2 goals in 52 seconds, and that kind of closed the book on it, making it 4-1. Neither team scored in the third, and Springs really clamped down defensively in the third. Whereas Baldwin Woodville had 8 shots in the first, 11 in the second. They only had 2 shots in the third period, as Springs just played the prevent defense and locked down their defensive zone.
Well, and I mean, Springs played well defensively all game. The only goal they gave up was actually something we had talked about in the podcast before the state tournament. Two things we covered: avoid the major penalty, and watch out for fluky bounces off the boards. And the fluky bounce off the boards was the only goal Springs gave up. It was a puck that was dumped in, and everybody thought it was going to go around the boards behind the net, but it actually jumped out in front of the net, and Baldwin Woodville was right there to cash in and score their one goal, as the goaltender for Springs was, on the far side waiting for the puck to come around. That never did. So yeah, freaky bounces off the boards. They exist at the Alliant Energy Center. We saw it in that first game, or the second game.
And Springs, just like Rice Lake, Springs took 5 penalties in that game, but they held Baldwin Woodville to no goals on the power play, 0 for 5. Setting up the Division II championship game of humans versus robots, as St. Mary Springs has been number 1 in the top 6 rankings voted on by humans for most of the season, and Rice Lake has been number 1 in the computerized power rankings for the latter half of the season. So it's a battle of humans versus robots for supremacy here in Division II.
And I think that if you look at what our staff picked on this one, you two both picked Rice Lake to win this one tomorrow, while MJ and I picked St. Mary Springs.
I think overall, St. Mary Springs has a better first line, even with Talon Blank out. I think Dianovich and Josh Austin are just awesome. But I think Rice Lake has a better second line, and this should be probably one of the better Division II games Springs has played all season. I expect this to be a close game. We've seen that teams like Baldwin Woodville holding Springs to 4, I think, probably surprised a lot of people around the state after the performance Springs put up in the sectional round. I mean, you can't stop their first line, but you can certainly slow them down. And I think Rice Lakes has got the manpower to do that.
And Baldwin Woodville, their goaltender was outstanding in that game. I mean, the net result is going to show that he gave up, 4 goals on 31 shots, but some of those shots and some of those rebounds, Dominic Height, he played an excellent game. It's just they were just all over him. The shots were fairly close, but the quality of the shots were definitely in the favor of St. Mary Springs. And when we did our initial predictions, I favored Rice Lake because they had 2 lines, whatever you want to call their first line and their second line. They set them up so that, each line has scoring potential. And, with St. Mary Springs, without Talon Blank, I mean, their first line is still, good, not quite as dynamic as it was, but then, they move up somebody from the second line to the first line, who scored 2 goals.
Jonathan Korb.
Jonathan Corp, scored 2 goals. He's more of a grinder. He's not the dynamic, flashy player that Talon Blank is. So yeah, I mean, it makes their first line a little less dynamic, but it also, weakens their second line. And like I said, Rice Lake has got, is it a first line or a second line, or is it line 1A and 1B? Each of their first 2 lines can score goals. So I think this just kind of puts another notch on the side of Rice Lake.
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan Korb, who slid into that first line spot vacated by Talon Blank, had 3 goals on the regular season. And then being on that first line, he got 2 pretty gritty goals. One was a deflection. The other one was a battle in front, with Yanovich and Austin. He got 2 goals. He's got 2/3 of his season total in the state semifinal. But yeah, I mean, it weakens their lower lines. So, and I didn't realize, just looking at their stats on the season, we haven't been over to Rice Lake. It's not near us. That Adam Tim and Cole Fensky weren't on the same line. I mean, just because you hear their names all season long, they're 2 leading scorers. They're not on the same line. They're line 1 and line A. And so it should be a great game tomorrow. I picked Rice Lake, and I'm standing by that. But we will point out that Springs is 2-0 in Division II championship games so far. So history is on their side.
And we can never, you can never count them out. They're a very well coached team. They're very disciplined. Yeah, I mean, they know what they're up against, and I'm sure they're going to have a game plan against it. But yeah, it just their game plan just became that much harder without Talon Blank.
Let's move on to the girls.
Then we move on to the girls, which was the evening session. And that started up with, the Hilltoppers of Onalaska and the Fox City Stars. Fox City Stars came in as the number 1 seed, and the Onalaska Hilltoppers as the number 4 seed. And Del, tell us what happened with number 4 meets number 1.
The first period, was really close. Shot for 7-5 in the favor of the Stars. But it was the second period where Onalaska was able to come up with 2 goals to 1 for the Stars, but the Stars outshot them 13-8 in that period. The two goals late in the period, Fox City Stars scored a shorthanded goal, and 11 seconds later, Onalaska regained the lead on the power play to lead 2-1 at the end of 2 periods. And then late in the third, Onalaska scored an empty netter to win the game 3-1. But this Onalaska team's on a streak. I think it's 18 wins in a row. So, I mean, we knew this was going to be a tight game and close. And, MJ picked Onalaska to leave the arena tomorrow with the title. And so he's got a chance at sitting there yet. But, it was a good game. And that Anna Zemansky had 2 goals and picked up a 5-minute major.
Yes, she did. And that was probably one of the more surprising things. Like we said in the last one, Onalaska took more penalties than Fox Cities did, just like Rice Lake and St. Mary's Springs. So apparently the key to winning at the state tournament is to take the most penalties. Fox Cities was 0 for 3 on the power play, and one of those power plays was a 5-minute major. I really thought Fox Cities played well. As Burglar has said many times, they did everything except put the puck in the net. They had the puck the majority of the time. Onalaska was kind of in a bend, don't break mode. For the most part, they kept Rentmeester and Zelish outside. The one time those two were able to get at them, it was a shorthanded goal when Onalaska probably let their guard down a little. It was on the tail end of a 5-on-3. She scored like 4 seconds into the 5-on-4 portion of that power play. Did Rentmeester while shorthanded. So Onalaska probably had their guard let down a little on those two because they were, with the man advantage. But yeah, they did a great job of not letting them get inside and really shut them down, which is what we said that a team had to do to beat Fox Cities. They only had really scoring from two people for a good portion of the year, and to beat them, you had to shut those two people down, and they did it.
Yeah, and we found out in an interview afterwards that, Onalaska, their focus was to shut down those two players. They concentrated all their, they put all of their best players out on the ice to face, Rentmeester and Zilich and shut them down. And they sold out, block shots, do whatever you have to do to stop those two. And when they're not on the ice, we're going to try to score. And that's what they did. It was their game plan, and it worked for them, and they're moving on.
Junior, wasn't this a game that you said there were quite a few block shots that, kept them from getting all the way to the goalie, or is that the second game?
No, there was a lot of block shots in this game. Onalaska's probably got bruised legs.
And Onalaska was outshot in this game 31-19. And I think this is where we say, you make it to this point of the season, you hear people say you got a freshman goaltender or whatever. But, we've all said before, you've made it this far through the season, what grade you're in kind of goes out the window a little bit because you've already, built up the confidence of your team and everything else throughout the season with you in net. And Diana Hansen has done a great job of that this season for the Hilltoppers.
Well, and we actually talked to Chris McGurk, assistant coach for Fox City today. We talked to him after our awards ceremony, and he was reminded because he had told
Dwayne Wojcik,
the coach of the Warbirds, that he'd never seen a team sold out so much to block shots in that game, and Wojcik reminded him of 2 years ago when Saborski for Fox Cities was a freshman and a brand new goaltender, and Fox Cities basically sold out to block shots. That was their game plan going in. It worked for them. Onalaska advances to face the Central Wisconsin Storm, who faced off in the second game on Thursday night against
Madison Metrolinx.
That was them. Yes, I was there. No, I wasn't there. I was over at the Wisconsin Hockey Coaches Association awards banquet, so I really can't say anything about that game.
Yeah, Kaya Bice sniped a goal for the Lynx in the first period, ended 1-0 in the first period, and then the Storm scored 3 goals in the second period. Drew Sabatke, Logan Crawford, and Gabby Duvert each scored, and then the Storm added an empty netter in the third. Not surprising to me that the Storm only allowed 1 goal. In regulation this season, they only had 1 game where they allowed more than 2 goals. That was a 4-3 loss to the Fox City Stars. And then they had an overtime loss 3-2 to the Warbirds co-op, where they allowed a 3rd goal. But those were the only 2 times this season where the Storm have allowed more than 2 goals. And only, like I said, only once in regulation. So keeping Metrolinx, which is a very deep, very strong team, to 1 goal and only 19 shots is a pretty impressive work of team defense on the part of Storm. The most surprising part for me is that they scored 3 goals in 1 period, which I think if you look back on all of their games against top 6 type teams this season, I don't think they've scored 3 goals in 1 period yet. So that was pretty new for them. And
the head scratcher for us anyway, was, at the beginning of the game when we looked and who saw was in net for each team. The goaltender who won our Jesse Vetter Award as the top goaltender in Wisconsin, Chloe Lemke, was not in goal for Central Wisconsin, and a first team All-State goaltender,
Abby
Nutini for Metro Lynx, was not in goal for them. So puzzling or interesting decisions by the coaches there to go with alternate goalies, backup goalies, whatever you want to call them, not the goalies we were expecting in the semifinal game.
But I don't think it affected the outcome of the game. I think it probably would have ended up just about the same way had Nutini and Lemke been in net.
I think one of the impressive things to me in that game with the Storm is they actually cut the number of shots faced the last time the Lynx put against them. I think the Lynx put up 38 shots against them the last time they played each other, and this time they held them to 19 shots.
Yeah, they cut it straight in half at that point. I mean, that's generally speaking, you see it in like conference tournaments, and then when it gets to the playoffs, teams that played each other once before play each other again, and the shot totals tend to shrink because they've seen them, they know what they're doing, and the defenses just improve. Shot totals tend to shrink, but cutting a team from 38 down to 19 is a pretty strong effort for the Storm.
The thing was with the Storm, they kept that pressure. Whoever had that puck did not have any. Once they got into the offensive zone, there was a body on them all the time, it seemed to me.
Yes. And the pattern kept true in this one. The Storm took more penalties, yet they came away with the win. The Metro Lynx were 0-3 on the power play. Storm had too many men on the ice, and then 2 tripping calls, which were only about 50 seconds apart. So they had 5-on-3, and the Lynx didn't score 5-on-3 either.
So that sets up the championship game tomorrow, somewhere around noon. Central Wisconsin Storm and Onalaska. I say I hadn't seen Onalaska until yesterday, and I was impressed. And that's going to be that's going to be a tight game, Onalaska versus the Storm.
Yeah, they played earlier this year. Storm outshot them 38-28 and won 3-2 in overtime. And the names of the scorers are the names of the people that kind of stood out. Jaden Hams for Onalaska. She played a great game. She didn't get on the board against Fox Cities, but she played a great game. She was noticeable with the puck many times. She had a goal in that one. McKenna LaFleur, who assisted on a couple of the goals, had a goal in that one. Sammy Federici had a goal. Tristan Wickland. So like the names that we've talked about all season for those 2 teams were the ones that scored in that regular season game. I think Onalaska is a little bit more dynamic offensively than the Storm is, but that's not really saying much. The Storm, I mean, they'll get dirty goals when they can get them, but still the bulk of their scoring is Sammy Federici. But they showed yesterday that Federici didn't have a goal, and they won that game 4-1. So that, their other players, hopefully, for them that builds some confidence, and they can go into this championship game knowing that they can score without her, because they're going to need to against Onalaska. That's a strong team. And as Dell said, I think they're up to 18 wins in a row right now.
Yeah, they hadn't lost since like the middle of December.
And they've played good teams in that stretch. It's not like they've been, playing cupcakes the whole time.
And who is number 27 that Nikki liked?
And this is Mansky.
Yeah, she had the 2 goals and the major penalty for boarding, I believe it was.
Yes.
Yeah, she put Grace Rentmeester into the boards in the second period,
Third
rather
period.
aggressive, third period rather aggressively. And the one thing two things we talked about, warned about in our previous podcast is, watch out for the goofy bounces off the boards, which came into play in the game, and don't take the major penalties. And Onalaska did take the major penalty, but was able to kill it and get through it without negative effect.
Now, generally speaking, as Wisconsin Prep Hockey, we're neutral as far as most teams are concerned. But MJ picked Onalaska to win, and the teams that Del Bergler and I picked are all out. And none of us want to be wronger than MJ. So I think, passively, we're all kind of cheering for the Storm, because if MJ's right and the rest of us are wrong, that just sets a bad precedent.
No, because we'll never hear the end of it, ever. Remember when I picked Onalaska?
Just like I still bring it up. Remember the time I was the only one to pick Bayport to beat Notre Dame and come to state, and that's exactly what happened.
We talk about the funny bounces. The Storm did score a goal off of one of those bounces, came straight back up, and a diving play by the Storm player was able just to tip it over and into the net. So, 2 games that were played yesterday, both had funny bounces that led to goals. And I think that brings us to the games that happened today.
Yes. In the first one.
Hudson showed why they have been ranked number 1 often unanimously all season, as they just totally controlled University School, held them. You can quibble about the exact number if you want, but the official shot on goal total for University School was 1 for the game. 1 shot on goal. There were a couple other times the puck got to the goaltender, but it was later ruled that those were actually during delayed offsides. So even had the puck gone in the net, it wouldn't have counted as a goal. So it didn't count as a save. So 1 shot on goal for University School today, as they lost 6-0 to a very, very dominant Hudson Raider team.
Like we've seen runtime games at the state tournament before. We've seen plenty of runtime games at the state tournament. I've never seen a team credited with 1 shot on goal. That's just crazy. And I mean, you can quibble, maybe it was 3 or something like that, but come on. They at no point did USM really have a scoring chance. It was just crazy.
No, I mean, at best it was 1 shot per period. So there may have been 3 for those, but it was never more than 1. I mean, we looked down and watched the goaltender Aiden Temperang for Hudson, just trying to stay warm. Standing in the net, doing like his pregame goaltender play your angles drills and do your pregame imagine shots. I mean, he was just standing down in his end, trying to keep himself active while the puck was on the other end of the ice.
Yeah, I mean, and this game was like a master class in how Hudson plays. Like I mentioned it when it got into the third period. Not once when entering the offensive zone did I see a Hudson player try to toe drag and dangle the defenseman and get around him and go in on his own. Not once. They stick to the game plan. They go where there's space. They take what they're given, and they make. I mean, they didn't force the puck into an area where it was like a 50-50 shot on whether it was going to be a good pass or a turnover, like you see teams do often to try and generate offense. Just none of that. They just made the simple play. They took what they were given. They went where there was space, and they're just relentless, rolling 4 lines. They can all go all out the whole game. It was as far as their effort goes, like one of the best high school hockey teams I've ever seen.
Yeah, I was watching them, exit. I mean, when the puck did get down into their zone, I mean, it was, you would see the defenseman get the puck and you look and there's, a lot of teams like to make that cross ice pass, but, there was a guy, somewhere in the vicinity, he may intercept it. No, I'll just take the safe pass up the boards because I got a wing right there. And he'll take the puck and he'll make the save. It was like, giving you safe play. They're just so disciplined. Make the easy choice, make the safe play, get the puck out of the zone, make the easy choice through the neutral zone, get the puck down into their zone, make the easy choice at the blue line, get the puck into their zone. And once they're in their zone, well, then you just attack relentlessly and attack until the puck goes in the net. But when they start coming out, no, you don't pinch, you back up, you play it safe, get the turnover and go right back. Just disciplined, nothing flashy, just the safe, short, quick plays that just, the little things that lead to big things. That's the way they played. And it just worked like clockwork for them today.
Yeah, I don't think their plan is ever to be flashy out there and get those flashy goals. They just want to wear you down. Like after one period, this was a 0-0 game with Hudson leading in shots 16-1. And they didn't come out any different in the second period. No sense of urgency. Like, how are we going to beat this goalie? They just stuck to the same game plan and like, we're going to wear them down. If we keep doing this, eventually the puck will go in the net. They got 3 in the second, 3 in the third. And like his stats aren't going to be great, 878 save percentage, but I thought Michael Polston for USM played a great game in net. He was very busy. It was in his end the whole time. He never got to catch his breath, but that was just, I've never seen a state high school hockey game like that.
No, and we saw Hudson play. Bill and I saw Hudson play earlier this year. We saw them play Wausau West, and in that game, most of the Hudson offense seemed to feed. Once they got into the zone, they seemed to feed back to the defenseman. And Bill asked, Davis Trubisky about that. Was that your normal thing? He said, well, no, but that's what they gave us. And that's the way Hudson plays. I mean, in that game, Wausau West was keeping all their forwards down low. So the opening was, to pass it back to your defenseman, to spread things back out. Hudson takes what you give them. If you give them an opening here, they're going to take it. If you try to cut this off, they'll find another way. They take what you give them, and they are disciplined enough to know that, you have 2 choices. You can stop this or you can stop that. You're going to stop this? Okay, then we'll do that. And that's how they approach this game. And yeah, it was a master class in, dismantling a team.
Moving on to the next one. The number 3 seed Madison Edgewood Crusaders and the number 2 seed Notre Dame Academy Tritons. This was the 4th time I've seen Notre Dame this year, but it was the first time I got to see Madison Edgewood. Cody Menzel and JJ Webush were both Player of the Year finalists and Pavelski Award finalists, and they certainly did not disappoint. As they each scored. Webush scored twice. Menzel scored once, and that was their scoring in their 3-1 win over Notre Dame.
Yeah, Notre Dame had beaten Edgewood earlier in the season, but Webush did not score, and
he didn't play.
He didn't play. He didn't play in that game. So, yeah, you can see what a difference he makes. And Menzel, there was an article that we featured on our site. It was actually an article that was in one of the Madison papers about how Menzel's speed leads to his scoring. And yes, we saw his speed on display as at least 3 times in the game. He just kind of turned on the jets and got behind the Notre Dame defenseman. One of them led to a goal. The other couple of times led to very good scoring chances. But Yeah, he has speed in abundance.
He had a breakaway goal in the first period, and he had two breakaways stopped in the third period. The forgotten man on their first line of JJ Webush and Cody Menzel is Aiden Lenz. Going into the game, I just kind of assumed that thing you assume when a team has two great players on a line that the other guy's just kind of along for the ride. I really didn't get that impression from him. He is a really skilled hockey player on that other slot on that first line, and he is an excellent passer. And when he is in the offensive zone, you can see him. He knows where those two are, and that's where he's going with the puck. Very few times did he actually shoot. When he had a decent opportunity, he took it, and he had a breakaway chance in the third period of his own. But he's an excellent passer. The breakaway that Menzel scored on in the first period, Lenz had the puck along the boards on the Edgewood blue line, and he fired as hard a pass as you're going to see in high school hockey, up through the center of the ice to Menzel, streaking to get past the Notre Dame defenseman. And I'm pretty sure a Notre Dame defenseman actually got a stick on it, and it barely slowed down, hit Menzel, and he was off to the races to score Edgewood's third goal of the first period. It wasn't all Edgewood, though. The third period, Notre Dame really turned on the Jets. They outshot Edgewood 13-5 in that period. They had several good scoring chances, but they weren't able to crack. Rowan White, good goaltender for Edgewood. Notre Dame's only goal came on a breakaway from Hunter Bill. Michael McEntee, who Coach McCracken always talks about as one of his best players and has been for a couple of years now, fired a pass through the neutral zone up to Brendan Gruber, and all Gruber really did with it was just kind of poke it forward to Bill as he streaked past the Edgewood defense, and he came in and put a hard power move on the goalie. In the process of making the save, White kicked the net off, but they ruled it was a goal anyway. He kicked it off in the process of making the save as Bill was beating him. So that breakaway goal was Notre Dame's only goal of the game.
Yeah, and it was fun. We had with us as a guest in the booth Kirk Dobbins-Feck. I think Madison Edgewood. Is that where he played?
I don't think so. I don't remember where he played high school.
Okay.
He was a Badger, though.
Yeah, but he was there watching the game with us, and he was quite taken by the Edgewood goaltender, Rowan White. Rowan White, yeah, because he was thinking that Rowan White could be the key in the game against Hudson, and you look at it, and Hudson, strong team, up and down, good goaltending, very good defense. They may not be as dynamic a scoring team, and so you're throwing against them, a very good goaltender for Edgewood and Rowan White, and then on their defense, you're throwing against their defense. Their defense, you've got Menzel and Webush. So I think I hadn't seen Edgewood before, but I'm as much as I've liked Hudson all season, I think Edgewood just might have the right combination of, a goaltender, who facing, a good solid team, but not without any real dynamic, goal scorers, and, against a team that's good defensively. Now you're throwing two very dynamic goal scorers against them. I think it sets up for a heck of a championship game tomorrow.
Yeah, they played earlier this year. Actually, they played their first game of the season for both teams. Was Hudson against Edgewood, and Hudson won that game 7-2. But that was the first game of the season, and you can't draw a lot of conclusions from that. I believe at the start of the season, Coach Drewiski actually had Max Giblin playing forward to try and he had concerns about Hudson's offense. Over the course of the season, those concerns have been allayed, and Max is back at his proper spot on the blue line where he belongs. But Hudson had 4 goals in that game in the first period, and then just kind of rolled from there. But I don't see that kind of score. I don't see a 7-2 game coming out of this. I can't imagine that Edgewood is going to score more than 2.
But I can't imagine they're going to give up 7 either.
No.
In that game against Hudson, Cody Menzel picked up a major penalty late in the second period for a 5-minute major at the 14:33 mark, and I was just looking to see if Hudson capitalized on that, and it does not appear that they did. Edgewood actually scored a shorthanded during that time, but otherwise, they were able to kill off that major penalty. But you definitely don't want to do that against Hudson.
And like
tomorrow.
We talked about with the Storm, in the Wisconsin portion of their schedule, which was, depending on when you ran the computer rankings, either the first or second hardest schedule in the state this year, Hudson and Notre Dame were just kind of trading off week to week. Like we talked about with the Storm, only twice this year did Hudson give up 3 goals in a game. They had a 5-3 win against Chippewa Falls in their 3rd game of the season, and then that 3-2 overtime loss to Eau Claire North at the beginning of January. Those are the only 2 times this year that Hudson has given up 3 goals in a game to a Wisconsin team. So far in the playoffs, they have given up 2 goals in 4 games. So I can't imagine Edgewood scoring more than 2, even with Wiebusch and Menzel out there. It's not to say it's unheard of. I can't see that happening, but I don't see Hudson scoring 7 on the team I watched play today. They were really good against Notre Dame, who I've seen many times is a very good team.
Yeah, Hudson has no weaknesses. Their goaltending is strong. Their defense is strong. Their offense may not be as dynamic as some of the other teams, but they score goals, enough to win games. Madison Edgewood, dynamic up front, strong goaltending. Otherwise may not be as strong as Hudson defensively, other than the goaltending. But yeah, it sets up for a very. I'm looking forward to the championship game more than I was on Monday when we did our last podcast coming in. I thought the only interesting game out of the Division I was going to be the Notre Dame Edgewood game. But looking at Edgewood, I hadn't seen them play before. Looking at Edgewood, they can give Hudson a game. I don't think they can beat them, but they can give Hudson a game. I still have to stick with Hudson as my, repeat tournament champion.
I think, just talking to coaches over the years, Hudson's offense this year is the offense most coaches say that they want. Like when you ask coaches what problems they're having on offense, the answer is invariably guys trying to do too much, guys trying to do it themselves, guys trying to force the puck into situations where it doesn't need to be. Hudson doesn't do any of that. They follow the system. They go where there's space. They make the safe, easy play, and eventually they wear you down. They're the offense that, other than I think John loves flashy goals. Other than John Welsh, I think the Hudson has the offense that most coaches say they want. You'd like every coach would love to have guys who can skate circles around the other team and do it all themselves, but they want those guys to also play within the system. And who knows, maybe Carter Mears and Matthew Maurer actually can do that, but they've bought in to what Coach Drewski is selling, and they don't. And they stay within what the plan is.
Well, what we haven't seen, and maybe if we had been at some of those other games where Hudson was behind, what we have seen too many times on talented teams is when they get behind, players forget that, buying into the system, doing the simple things. And so many times you see a player, well, you know what? We're behind. These other guys aren't doing it. I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to be the hero. And, they try to skate through everybody and go in and score. And it never works. The couple of times we've seen Hudson play, I mean, they haven't been behind, but I'm guessing just from what we've seen from them, they don't have that problem of, well, if we're behind, it's every man for himself. I think that, from watching these guys, they have a structure to their play. You take you take the path of least resistance. Moving up the ice, you take the path of least resistance, get it into their zone, and then work it until you get a good scoring chance. I don't see that changing. Just a disciplined team. It's just fun watching. It's like everything you try to teach kids as they're coming up, when they're peewees or whatever. Take what's there. Like I said, path of least resistance. What's the safe play? Pass it. Yeah, well then he's open, pass it to him. Move it up the ice. Just keep it going up the ice. Don't try to do anything fancy. Just get it into their zone and then attack. Just fun to watch all that precision passing and moving the puck.
It'll be nice to see Menzel and Webush in that speed against Hudson's fundamentally perfect defense, essentially. That's going to be, what the unstoppable force versus the immovable object.
The one thing that, hear you guys talk about how they've bought into the system, it basically boils down to what we've heard for years. It's the name on the front of the jersey that matters, not the one on the back and stuff. And that's exactly the way these kids play out there. Obviously it helps with their head coach and knowing what he's experienced throughout his life, in the hockey at the high school level, at the college level, and at the pro level. And I think you brought it up, Bergler, up there at their rink. They got that mural, him holding up that Stanley Cup.
The great big huge sign at the end of you can't miss it.
And I know we're talking about the championship game. I want to go right back to Notre Dame for a minute. Leighton Jaschke, the goalie for the Tritons, it's not going to reflect in his save percentage because Edgewood really didn't take that many shots. He only had an .833 for the game, 15 of 18. He stopped 3 breakaways in the third period. And the goals that Edgewood scored were beautiful shots. He played a really good game for Notre Dame, and he kept them in it. Notre Dame went full out offense in the third period and outshot Edgewood 13-5. 3 of those 5 shots were breakaways. He stopped them all. So I don't want to, I didn't want to forget about that as we had moved on.
I think you kind of brought that up last week with when we were talking a little bit about the Springs game. And if a goalie was making 75% saves on his breakaways, he had a heck of a game. And
75% on breakaways is elite. And that's where he was today.
So.
Well, and you talk about the difference between, a lot of teams have, good hockey players. Like we talked Eau Claire North, and even Superior when they pulled their upset. They have good hockey players that can, skate up and down the ice just fast and aggressive and stuff. But there's something about elite goal scorers, being able to shoot. And specifically, I'm talking about Cole Fensky for Rice Lake and JJ Webush for Edgewood. And just when they get the puck, they just don't throw it at the net. They pick a specific corner and they hit it. Their shot is hard that they hit that spot every time. That's how you score 95. That's how you get 95 points in a season. not because you just throw the puck at the net and hit the goal in the chest, because you hit that corner. And that mean we saw Webush and 20
Menzel.
Menzel's breakaway. He hit the top and it came right back out before the goalie even saw it.
He had the confidence to come down on a breakaway, and he didn't try to deke the goalie or make a move. He got to the slot, he squared up, and he shot, and it was a beautiful shot.
Yeah, and these elite goal scorers, they can pick their spots. Not everybody can do that. Like I said, we've seen a lot of teams that could put a lot of shots on goal, put a lot of pressure on, but these elite goal scorers, they have that little something extra where they can just find that little crease and hit it every time.
That's also why there's no good goalie stats. Of the goalie stats available, save percentage is probably the best. It's definitely better than goals against average, but not all shots are created equally. There's really no good goalie stats. You have to use your eyeballs. Save percentage is a good barometer over the length of a season because the good shots and the bad shots kind of balance out, but it's tough.
Anyway, did we do our prediction for this one?
Well, we predicted them last Monday.
Oh, okay. So we're sticking with Hudson?
I am.
Okay.
I think it should be a good game, but it'll be a better game than I thought it would be.
It will be a better game than I thought it would be too, but I was really impressed with Edgewood today. But I was more impressed with Hudson. So
yeah, I'm looking at his season. I don't think JJ Webush played in their game against Springs at the tournament in Notre Dame either. He didn't play that game or the game against Notre Dame. He scored a point, not necessarily a goal, but he had a point in every other game this season. Every game that he actually appeared in, he had a point. And
he is good.
That's continued through the playoffs. I don't have him up right now, but I'm pretty sure Menzel is the same way. 88 and 85 points on the regular season. They're going to be close.
And Hudson will be the home team, so they'll have the last line change. Webush and Menzel play on a line. They were, two of our finalists for the Pavelski Award. Max Giblin, the actual winner of our Jawiski Award, handed out by, Jawiski. But we have two of the top 5 forwards and the best defenseman. So I'm guessing Giblin will be on the ice whenever Menzel and Webush are. So it'll be a good matchup. It'll be fun to watch.
And speaking of our awards, Parker Mern, defenseman for Edgewood, was also one of our 5 finalists for the Jawiski Award. So they're good on both ends at Edgewood.
Yeah, even though their goaltender did not make our finalist list, but he's no slouch either.
No. Well, the problem with the goalie awards this year is that there can only be 5 finalists, because I thought that there were probably 7 or 8 guys who could have been. My first 3 choices were super obvious to me when I made my votes, but after that, 4 through 7 or 8, that was much harder.
Yeah, because like I said, you can't just go on Rod. Because we just go on run like our winner, Tyler Fromholz. His save percentage for his goals against average wasn't very good because, quite frankly, the team in front of him was not very good.
But if you only 2.48, that's not bad.
No, but yeah, you look at his save percentage and then compare that. Well, then compare the number of shots he saw with anybody else that had that kind of save percentage. And it's like, Oh, he was busy. He was very busy every game. I mean, how many 50 shot games did he have?
Most of them.
Most, yeah, he was busy.
More than he didn't.
So, yeah.
That was the other thing we did today. We handed out our awards.
Yes, hats off to all of them.
Thank you to everybody who was there. We will get the article up on Saturday sometime, assuming Burglar gets the pictures ready. You can watch the video of the ceremony on YouTube. It's only 20 minutes, so it's not like that big an imposition on your day.
Can we just name them?
We can name them. I have an article ready to go, just waiting for pictures so I can pull that up.
Okay.
Going in order, we'll start with the forwards. Our Janelle Sergey Award winner was Michaela Zilish of the Fox City Stars.
Surprise!
I believe she also won last year.
Yeah.
Our Joe Pavelski Award winner was Tyler Dale of the Waukesha Wings. Our Molly Engstrom Award winner was Kendall Sundby of the St. Croix Valley Fusion. Our Davis Drewiski Award winner was Max Giblin of Hudson.
Surprise! He won last year too.
In the 10 years that we've been doing this for the boys, Max Giblin is now the only repeat winner.
Not just of the Drewiski Award, but of any of the boys' awards.
Yes. Our Jesse Vetter Award winner was Chloe Lemke of the Central Wisconsin Storm. Our Kirk Dobbinspec Award winner was Tyler Fromm, also of the Waupun Warriors. Our Rachel Kenyon Unsung Hero Award was Logan Crawford of the Central Wisconsin Storm. She had one of my favorite goals of the tournament so far. She came in from the half wall, kind of one-on-one with the goalie, and she just kind of kept skating forward. And somehow the puck went through the goalie and in. I'm not sure if she shot or if she just poked it or if she just pushed it through the goalie. I don't know what happened, but the puck went through and in. She's kind of like just skated through her. And our Adam Burrish Award winner was Reese Richardson of Hudson. So those are our 8 Wisconsin Prep Hockey end of season award winners. And we did announce at the broadcast or the ceremony today that next year we'll be splitting the boys awards into 2 divisions. So there'll be Division 1 awards, which will remain the Pavelski, Drewiski, and Dobbinspec.
Because they all played for large schools.
Yes.
Hudson, Stevens Point, and
He's from Madison, so
a large Madison school.
And Division 2 to be named later. We'll have Division 2 awards to hand out.
So yeah, what we are looking for is players from smaller schools, schools that are Division 2 now. That the guys we had, were played for the Badgers and then went on to play professionally. I don't know that we're going to have necessarily guys that from small schools that necessarily played for the Badgers and then went on to play professionally. So, if there's if you're in one of those smaller communities that is Division 2, and there is somebody from your played for your high school and went on to play not necessarily for the Badgers, but played college hockey and then professionally. Send us your recommendations for names. We have a couple of favorites in mind. Since Bill and I spent a lot of time in Anago, we're kind of leaning towards Joe Piscula for a Division 2 defenseman, just because who doesn't like Joe Piscula? If you don't like Joe Piscula, it's because you have never met Joe Piscula. He's a wonderful guy through and through. His family is wonderful. His sister Trish is wonderful. His brother Charlie was, kind of a handful when he was young, but he turned out okay too. So the whole Piscula family. So, if you want to name, if you're thinking about a defenseman, you got to beat Joe Piscula. So, after that, go ahead, continue. What we're really looking for, is a goalie. Because for some reason, Wisconsin goalies get overlooked.
Very little respect.
Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, continue.
Well, that's all I have.
Love you, Joe.
See, Burglar's had a couple drinks before we recorded tonight, so he's very happy.
Oh,
and
who cannot be happy when you're talking about Joe Piscula? He's always smiling. He's always happy. He's, it's just a joy to be around. His dad can be a handful, especially if you criticize him on the air, on the radio, and he'll, tell the plow drivers to plow all the snow into your driveway the next morning. But, that only happened a couple of times.
Tomorrow will be the third time that we're having 3 championship games. I think all 3 of us agree that we should have 3 good games tomorrow. But
Yes.
as we look back over the history, do you think these could be 3 of the closer games, or even 2 of the closer games that we have on Championship Saturday?
I don't remember what the Springs and Superior score was last year in the championship game. I think it was 4-1. I think we're gonna have 3 good games. I don't think any of them will be decided by more than 2 goals. I definitely don't think we're gonna see a run time like we've seen in the championship games a couple times back in the 8 division days. I think we're gonna have 3 really good hockey games. I would not be surprised to see an overtime or 2. I'd prefer not to, because I watched 6 hockey games already the last 2 days. Overtime just means I get home later.
Well, if we don't have overtime that went as long as the Fusion and Storm that one year, we're good.
Well, thankfully that we shouldn't have those kind of overtimes anymore. You get 1 5-on-5, then it's 4-on-4 and 3-on-3. So once you get into 3-on-3, it's really, you really should score.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to 3 good games. I mean, like I say, I hadn't seen Onalaska coming in, but I like the way Onalaska matches up against the Storm. I think that's going to be a very good game. I mean, I've been waiting all year for Rice Lake and Springs. I think that's going to be an epic showdown. And I was impressed enough with Edgewood in the last game of the night to think that they can give Hudson a run for their money. So yeah, I think we're looking at 3 great games tomorrow.
All right, that is all for us tonight, I think.
That's all I got.
Alrighty, we were kind of hoping MJ would be able to join us, but he's got more pressing duties. We wish him and Lori the best. And until we'll be back with one more podcast on Monday night. Once the state tournament is done, we'll do our final wrap up of the season on Monday night and post that afterward. But until then, if you can't make it to Madison, and I mean, if you can, you really should. I mean, these games are great to watch live. You're going to see 3 great hockey games tomorrow. So, I mean, if you can get here, do it. If you can't, watch it on TV. It'll be on whatever those OW channels are in all the various locations around the state. Yeah, but it's going to be good. They should all be very entertaining games. So until Monday night, for Bill and Del and MJ and even Brett over there in the corner, thanks for listening to This Week with Wisconsin Prep Hockey, and we'll see you on Monday.